In a sea of woke bullshit out of both Disney and Warner Brothers, Netflix of all places is the one that comes in clutch.
Let's find out.
Extraction 2, the sequel to the hit from 2020. Now, I didn't do a review of the first one because it came out a month before I actually started doing reviews, so I haven't really talked about it much. I talked about it in my top 10 of 2020, but only briefly, so I'll give a brief rundown of what I thought of the movie. Well, I would if I really remembered it. I remember liking it. I don't remember loving it, but I did remember thinking it was a solid action flick. Unfortunately, I don't remember shit about the story or anything else. I just remember the ending, and partly because it was in the teaser trailer for this, so that tells you know it's a decent action movie, but I haven't seen it since it came out. Extraction 2, I wasn't sure what to make of this because this kind of looked like it was it's just doing the same thing again. It's just another movie of him getting people from point A to point B. It's the same thing as the first movie, and honestly, it's not that deep of a plot. But I will be damned, this was a lot of fun. Now, does it have issues? One or two, but not as many as you'd think. And I'll get to my biggest problem in a bit. But of course, the action is what is, of course, the best thing about this movie. The first movie got a lot of attention when it came out due to the one-take action sequence that it had. It was about 10 minutes all done, at least made it look like one take. Whether or not it's actually one take depends on who you ask, because similarly, movies like 1917 and other movies and shows that have tried to do one-take action sequences, copying off of Daredevil, so a lot of them don't actually do them in one take. They're edited to make it look like one take. So whichever one actually does it in one take and which one's edited to make it look like that, again, depends on the movie or show. This one tried to one-up the first movie by making the action sequence not only bigger and grander, but also making it about twice as long. I swear, the one-take action sequence is about 20 minutes of this movie. And that's something else. I was wondering where this movie was going to go because there was still about after the first Extraction, there was still over an hour left. So I didn't really know what was going on. Well, technically, there are 3 extractions in this movie. There's the first one with the prison break. There's the second one to get out of the building that they're in. I don't really know what to call it. And then the third one is the final confrontation. And now, the villains are one of my problems. They're not bad. But I don't really understand these movies that try to make you feel bad for criminals and murderers. Like, they always have the same backstory of an abusive parent and all the other crap, and they have a bunch of philosophical bullshit about this criminal organization being family and all this other nonsense. It's like, I don't feel sympathy for these assholes because they're assholes. I don't feel sympathy for these murderers and drug dealers. Why should I feel sympathy for them? And my other big problem was Sandro. Was that the kid's name? The kid is the fact that he knows that his father is an abusive piece of shit, and they're literally living in a jail cell because they're trying to be near him, but and yet he's upset and yet he's wondering why they're leaving and he's not coming. He's upset when he gets killed in self-defense, and he's easily manipulated by, I guess it's his uncle. Yeah, I get it's family, but he's really gonna believe his uncle, who these, terrorists over his goddamn mother. Give me a goddamn break. And this piss poor reasoning is the reason why the second half of the movie gets to happen. I mean, the fight at the building is a lot of fun. I honestly think that action sequence was more fun than the one-take scene. But it only happened due to shitty circumstances. Or not even circumstance. It was it was a piss poor managed sequence of events that led to this action sequence in the first place. But that action sequence is, like I said, a lot of fun. It's got a lot of creative stunt work, a lot of creative kills. It doesn't hold back on the violence or how violent this would actually be in real life. And the choreography, it's well done. The editing isn't a jumbled mess, and that's all I ask out of action movies nowadays, is that I can see shit, and I can. And like I said, there's a lot of creativity to the action sequence in this movie, and then what there was in the first one as well. And they've already announced a third movie, so I'm already pretty excited for that. Although that does leave one weird thing with the ending, but I'll get to that in a bit. Or I guess I'll get to it now. The final confrontation is a decent, like, enclosed, essentially one-on-one fight, and it's pretty well done. But I'm not entirely sure why Tyler was sent to prison for killing a terrorist. You figure that one out. Oh yeah, Idris Elba's in this movie for 5 minutes. I was wondering if he was in the first movie, but considering Tyler didn't know who he was, I'm going to say no. And he's basically here to give Tyler his mission. He's the MI6 of this movie, and Tyler Rake is Ethan Hunt. That's how this, or James Bond, or whatever. That's how his role basically works. I do like that Tyler isn't immediately able to go back to action, because he was clinically dead 9 months before this movie takes place. And they do have short montage of him actually getting himself back into shape, because he isn't immediately thrown into this extraction. I think it's 6 weeks from the point where he gets the mission to the point. It doesn't really feel like it, though. Even that montage feels like it just took place over the span of a few days, but I'm glad it was there at all, so at least there's that. I like the side characters. I like Nick. I like Yaz. I think that's her brother's name. And I did legitimately feel bad when Yaz was killed, even though I kind of saw it coming. I'm surprised they didn't kill Nick off, because it looked like that's what they were doing at the end, but they didn't, and I'm kind of glad, because I like her character, and I'd like to see her in the third movie. I do like the family that he rescues, other than Sandro. He can go fuck himself, obviously. And I do like how this has some personal stakes for Tyler, because the person he's rescuing is the sister of his ex-wife. I do kind of like that. And I do like he gets kind of some closure with his wife and his son. And if you didn't see the first movie, the reason being is that his son was dying and that he had to leave to go off to fight in Afghanistan, I think it was. And he feels like the last memory his son has of his father is him walking out on him, but the ending reveals that that's technically not the case. So I like how that was handled. I do like that they don't put him back together with his ex-wife at the end. I'm glad they didn't do that route. I felt like that would have been overly sappy and wouldn't have fit with the dark and gritty action flick that this was. This is a dark and gritty action flick. There are a few comedic bits, and some of them hit, some of them are just kind of there. None of them are groan-worthy, but there are a few comedic bits throughout the fight scenes, and even just during the dialogue scenes, that work as character moments. Like, even if they're not funny, it's not supposed to make you laugh like a lot of jokes you get out of superhero movies. It's just character-building moments, so I do like that. And that's the thing about this movie, is that it's just here to give you some good action. And that's all this movie wants to do. It gives you good characters, and it gives you a decent story, but this is just here to have fun for 2 hours. And that's all I ask out of action movies nowadays. I mean, you could say the same thing about Fast X, but there was nothing fun about that movie. That movie was a fucking slog. But this one was creative, and it was entertaining. Fast X, there was nothing creative about that, at least nothing that wasn't also incredibly stupid. So, I would say, as much as I did like the first movie, I would say this one is better, because I think it has a stronger story. I think the character moments are a lot stronger here as well, and I think the action was even more creative. I did think it was a little tacky of them trying to one-up the one-take action sequence. I knew they were going to have one, especially since it was a focal point of the teaser trailer. but making it like twice as long, it was still a cool action sequence, but the entire time I could just feel it like, okay, we had this one from the first movie, now we gotta try to one-up it somehow. And that's what it felt like through that entire fight, but again, it was still a fun fight. So, I don't have much else to say about Extraction 2. This was a damn fun movie. It's on Netflix, so go watch it. I'm gonna give this a B+. So, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all, unfortunately, at Indiana Jones.